Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing the European Legacy Masters winning deck list. So this is basically like the European Pro Tour for Legacy. You have to qualify for it, and the field was hugely stacked. And the event was won by none other than Johan Larsson, a name that you should be very familiar with. I played a fair few of his decks on the channel, including the one he won Eternal Weekend with last year. The guy knows his Octopus Wizards. So, if we take a little look at the current meta, since it is our midweek meta deck slot, we can see the Blue-Black Reanimator is a third of all top 8 placings at the moment. These are online events. But if we go down to Breakfast, which is what we're doing today, 3% of the meta, 0.8% of the top 8 shares, so it's massively underperforming. An overrep rate of below 0.75 is bad, 0.28, very bad. Which makes Larsson's achievements all the more impressive. But I don't think anyone is remotely as good at playing this deck as Larsson is. He's an absolute supreme breakfast wizard. And we're going to hopefully do him proud and play the deck today. So, what is this deck? Well, you've seen it before. We're trying to use either Nomads, en-Kor or Shuko and combo it with either Nadu Winged Wisdom or Cephalid Illusionist. If we combo with the Illusionist, we mill over our entire deck and then we get our Narcomoeba jumping out, we dread return, Thassa's Oracle, win the game. If we combo with the Nadu, we just draw a whole bunch of cards. And then we're playing just a bunch of good stuff around it, really. So we've got ourselves some Tamiyos as just like a nice alternative plan that our opponent has to respect early on. So this is going to eat up removal that isn't going to be pointed at our thing that actually wins us the game. Ponders and Brainstorms, of course. Force of Wills on a couple of days. And then some removal in the form of Plow and Prismatic Ending. We do have Memory Journey so that we can like mill our whole deck and then use that tech that Oops All Spells kind of discovered. And it works very well here and allows us to beat some amounts of interaction from our opponents. We do have a one-off Ghost Vacuum. The meta is pretty graveyard-centric, and this is just a nice thing we can find off of our Urza Saga, which can also tutor for the Shuko. Mana base-wise, we've got ourselves a Hedge Maze, Meticulous Archive. We have an island and a plains, no basic forest, because we're only just touching green lightly for the Nadu. And everything else is as you would expect with the one-off Cavern of Souls naming wizard, because Nadu is a wizard, Cephalid Illusionist is a wizard, Tamiyo is a wizard, and Thassa's Oracle is a wizard too. Sideboard-wise, we've got a little bit more removal if we want it, so Source of Plowshares and Prismatic Ending. Serenity can clean up a whole bunch of things. We've got a bunch of Force of Negations here, so we're trying to stop some of these spooky, like, one-ring style decks. And if we can just keep them back for a few turns, and maybe we can explode out and do our thing, because they don't really interact with us. They just kind of do their stompy thing and play out a bunch of 4-drops ahead of curve. Consigned Memory, again, useful for those sorts of decks. We've got some more Graveyard Hate and Fairy Macabre. It's Fairy Time Raveler. This just allows us to make sure that our spells resolve and win the game that way. A couple more targets for our Urza Saga and Pith Needle and Ghost Vacuum, and then another Cavern of Souls for when it's going to be trickier to resolve stuff into like a heavy counterspell deck. We can just board in this. Also, boarding in another land against tempo decks is also quite nice too. I do not profess to be an expert at playing Breakfast, but the deck always feels very powerful when I play it. So like, subscribe, and let's get stuck in.
For free, fast, and secure worldwide shipping on high-end singles, classic products, and full sets, check out 3-for-1 Trading. Whether it's the legacy or pre-modern that I play on this channel, or even vintage and old school, they've got you covered. Find them through the link in the description of this video and use my code COW3 for free worldwide shipping on your first order over $500 or euros.
Alright, this is our opener. We have a turn 2 kill backed up by Force of Will on the play. Sure, sign me up for this one. I myself got back from the Eternal Mania event yesterday. This was the event where European Legacy Masters was hosted on a Sunday. And as you might be able to tell, I'm a little bit under the weather. Spending a whole weekend in a room full of hundreds of people, you're probably going to get the odd little bug here and there. So apologies if my voice is a little bit deeper and more coldy than normal. Anyway, let's get cracking. Here is our Nomads en-Kor. We have to survive this turn cycle, and then we're all good. I put it multi to 5, so if they try and send something, we might be able to interact with it and just win the game on our next turn. Underground Sea. It's just a Tamiyo. Don't care about that. 4 cards in hand. If they've got Force and Daze, they can get us, but I think we are just going to send it here. I think we want to get another Tundra. Here comes the Octopus Wizard. Well, that makes me sad. This used to be a Cephalid Wizard. A Daze. Okay, let's hope they don't have the Force. Okay, they didn't, and we get to win the game. Cool. So we've seen Underground Sea Tamiyo, so that could be one of like 4 decks. So not the most useful information. I imagine a Teferi is going to be pretty useful here. I don't know if they're doing Blue-Black Reanimator or if they're doing Blue-Black Tempo, or, it could even be Grixis. There's a lot of options our opponent could be doing. I think the Cavern of Souls is probably going to be relevant though. So I'm interested in these couple of things. I don't know if I want to board in the Ferrum cards without knowing they're going to be useful. Because these are either great or terrible. And our deck just has a bunch of cards that are good anyway. So I'd rather lean into that side of things. I don't think this is a situation where we're easing off the combo. I think we are relatively likely to be like the problem. So we're going to be the one that our opponent's going to have to deal with. Obviously, if they're Reanimator, things change, but we can address that in a game 3. I think the Dazes are just a little bit less interesting to me here. Like, we're on the draw, and we're boarding in a Cavern of Souls anyway. And we've got the Teferi, so we're just going to use these to make our spells resolve instead of using the Dazes. And this also insulates us against Wasteland, which are very likely to be in our opponent's deck. Just giving us a little bit more mana to work with. Yeah, this is a turn 2 into a turn 3. If they fail on the first hurdle. Yeah, okay, we'll keep this one. If they counter the Shuko, that'd be very good. But they could obviously Thoughtseize us and see what our hand is doing, take out the relevant piece, and then it gets a little bit spooky for us from there. Alright, blue mana, it's a Ponder. Very happy to see that. I think of all the things they can cast on turn 1, this is the least problematic for us. Now obviously it's going to make their turn 2 better, but not having immediate Tamiyo pressure or a Thoughtseize to pick apart our hand is ideal. So I believe we play the basic island. It keeps us safe from Wastelands. Just jam Shuko. Okay, I thought this would be relatively likely to resolve. But if they are just straight blue-black, it's going to be very hard for them to answer the Shuko. A Dalthy Voidwalker. Okay. A Cephalid Illusionist. I would quite like to find a Cavern of Souls for next turn. I think this means we're brainstorming, especially since there's no Walkish Bowmaster threat right now. So I think we brainstorm first. We can't combo into the Dalthy Voidwalker. Alright, this is not really what I wanted here. I think we'll put back just a couple of lands. We do have a lot of mana here. We want this, but we can always fetch this next turn anyway. Put these two back, and then we can use a Surveil land next turn to try and find the cavern, so we can go get Hedge Maze. That gives us our green for Nadu as well. And then we can try and look for one of our caverns, or, you know, a Force of Will to pair with these blue cards. Otherwise, we can start throwing out Illusionist and seeing if our opponent is interested in interacting with them. Also, if we draw the Thassa's Oracle, we can win the game by milling our entire library and just casting it from hand. As long as the Dalthy Voidwalker is tapped and they can't just get all the things that we've been milling over. So this feels like we might be looking at more of a blue-black tempo list. I haven't seen a lot of Dalthy Voidwalkers out of Reanimator sideboards, but it's in the wheelhouse of cards they can play. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were doing blue-black Reanimator, but I'm leaning more towards them being tempo here. Okay, so there is a Wasteland. That makes getting a Surveil land a little bit awkward. Cast with 0 colours. Is that what they meant to do? I don't think it was. So we can't really fetch anything with this. Okay. So this is going to answer Urza Saga constructs, which is pretty good. The Ghost Vacuum is not really helping us here. Intriguing. If we play this out, they can Wasteland it with the trigger on a stack so it never makes mana. I think I want to put a Cephalid Illusionist into play. This also gives us more bodies for when we start doing Shuko stuff. Now, it does come with a cost of us milling 3 cards, but we'll be drawing cards at the same time, and that should be enough to get us where we need to go. We do have a Hedge Maze we can fetch. I will play this Tropical Island, because then we get the mana out of it without having to crack this fetch. And we do have another green source we can find in the Hedge Maze. Like, we could just send it, and if our opponent doesn't have it, it's great. But I don't think our opponent's going to keep a hand that doesn't... Like, they might have just had this, and that's their answer. But they're not deploying anything else to the board, so what are they doing with their hand? It's got to have some more interaction on there. And it's not a Thoughtseize, because we would have seen that already, so it's probably a counter spell. So I'm going to try and play into drawing a Cavern or a blue card, a Force of Will to go with our blue cards and try and get through that way. Also, this combo here allows us to just mill over cards that we brainstorm back on top without necessarily needing a fetch land, which is an interesting little extra bit of value that we can enjoy. Okay, so I think this time I'm going to go and get the Hedge Maze. A Thassa's Oracle. So they could play a Bowmaster and target our Cephalid Illusionist here. How many cards our opponent have? They got 4 cards. So we can try and just shove the combo here. Because our opponent's going to be drawing 2 cards a turn, starting next turn. I think what we should do is just shove the Nadu. And we probably need to do that with this Flooded Strand. We can probably win this turn if our Nadu resolves anyway. And I think we get Tundra here. I'm not expecting this Nadu to resolve, but next turn we can just mill our library and play this Thassa's Oracle. A Daze. Sure, it's annoying, but it is what it is. We are planned around this. We obviously don't want to mill a bunch of cards until we're ready to go because our opponent gets to utilise them all. So they've got little counters on. They could go and get this Nadu and get rid of their own Dazzle Walker, but I think the graveyard hate on this is just too important. Would love to draw a Cavern of Souls this turn. That would really make my life a lot easier. Another Brainstorm is good. So they're flipping the Tamiyo. Next turn, this can go and get back, you know, like a Brainstorm or a Ponder to find more interaction. So I think we are going to try and go this turn, provided our Cephalid Illusionist is still alive. A Force of Will. That makes our life way easier. Okay, let's play this one out. Let's start doing the thing. Right, we can play around Daze here, and we can beat a Force of Will. This is tapped so they don't get any of our spells. So we're just going to keep equipping the Shuko. Every time we do, we mill 3 cards, and then we end up with an empty library. Alright, so now, a little bit of clicking later, we have an empty library, so we're going to put this Thassa's Oracle onto the stack. Our opponent needs 2 Force of Wills here. That's Force of Will there, Force of Will. They've got 2 cards in hand, and that is the game. So we found a way through, we tested their interaction. Deck is cool and resilient. Let's go to round 2. Well, once again, I find myself with a turn 2 combo through counter magic. Okay. Now, this Breakfast deck is so good because it can play different roles. You know, you can play a little bit more control-y, you can play for like the sort of longer, grindier game, but it can also just send it and kill people on turn 2. And I think the different levers it has to pull makes it really interesting. Lotus Petal. Alright, are we just going to get Clown on turn 1? Could be. Looks like an Undercity Informer. Have you got another piece of mana for this? Or are you just hoping to draw one next turn? Alright, they have the Spirit Guide. Let's have a look at their graveyard. What have we got here? Summoner's Pact. Oh, we're on an old build here with Summoner's Pact. Okay. I don't like the Summoner's Pact builds at all because I think the deck's really resilient and can just keep sending the combo again and again. And the Summoner's Pact stops you from being able to do that. So back when they just had to use Summoner's Pact instead of having all the double face cards, it was really a much fairer deck to play against. Really, because they had like one combo send. And if it went wrong, they just lost. Okay, so I guess you want some graveyard hate. Not that our graveyard hate is particularly great here. Anything that interacts with our opponent, please. So that includes Force of Negations. Serenity can blow up a Charbelcher. Pithing Needle can Pithing Needle the Charbelcher. Consign to memory, we can consign to memory a Charbelcher, a Lotus Petal. We can also consign to memory the trigger of the Balustrade Spy. We can't hit the Undercity Informer activate ability. We can hit Narcomoebas and stop them coming out of the graveyard. So there's some play here. So what are we doing with our actual deck here? Like, do we want to be able to send our combo on turn 2? Possibly. I don't think we want Plows. I think if our opponent's doing the fair plan, we can probably just be that anyway. I don't mind Prismatic Ending, because if they play out any mana for some reason, then we can take it out. They shouldn't play out the mana, so maybe I shouldn't have these and just assume our opponent's not going to play into something that doesn't really work for them. Okay, so obviously we keep the counter magic of all stripes. We're probably just going down on combo pieces, right? So we can get rid of one Shuko. We can have 1 to 2 to 4 to try and win the game with that way. I think the Illusionist combo actually ends up better than the Nadu combo for us, right? Because the Illusionist combo allows us to win the game right there and then. The Nadu, we have to draw a bunch of cards. It should be enough to win though, so either's probably fine. But this comes down a turn quicker if we end up in a situation where our opponent's just like trying to find 1 mana here and there. Maybe it's Ponders that are kind of slow. Like Tamiyo is really bad here, actually. Let's get that out. Maybe it's Ponders that go here. So if we assemble these 2, we get 1 Narcomoeba, then we can go. That's probably... Are we able to trim a Narcomoeba here? I don't... Like, the Memory Journey is Graveyard Hate, so we want to keep that in as well. Maybe we're just trimming a couple of Ponders here. And then we're still looking for more cuts. Maybe we'll cut a Nadu because it's a 3-drop. It is blue, but if we assemble our combo, like either of our combos, we should still win the game because we'll have enough resources that they won't be able to beat us if we have Nadu, or we just flat out win the game. So what does this hand do? We have a basic Plains, which doesn't really help. We have a Daze we can't cast. Yeah, this is a mulligan. Okay. We can keep this. We play out the Urza Saga on 1, work towards Graveyard Hate. We have double Force of Will hand. So we're probably putting back to Savannah because we need the blue land to cast our cantrip. So we keep this. Goodbye Savannah. Have double force and a turn 3 Graveyard Hate piece. Now our Graveyard Hate piece isn't very strong. the Ghost Vacuum, not great against the Useful Spells deck. However, if they pivot to the Charbelcher, the Pithing Needle for Charbelcher is very good. So I might even just go and get that rather than the Ghost Vacuum, because they should be able to beat Ghost Vacuum. Alternatively, this gets our Shuko and we kill our opponent on turn 3. So we've got options. Actually, no, we don't kill our opponent on turn 3 because we need a third body and we've only got one more Narcomoeba in the deck. But they've shown us that they're playing Summoner's Pact, so that might just be our win condition. No play. Okay. That's kind of nice if we can find a white source. I'm not going to play one of my blue cards right now. It's not required. I'd rather hold up Double Force. We can play it next turn and win still. Bog at Bog. Tapped or untapped? Untapped. Here we go. A Lotus Petal. An Undercity Informer. Let's hit this pitching a Narcomoeba. A Pact of Negation. I will force their Pact of Negation here. So Force of Negation doesn't hit all the things their deck can do. Okay, they've got 2 cards left in hand. Now what, I guess, is the question. A Nomads en-Kor. Not a thing we get to do anything with, really, is it? Okay. So, we got some choices here. We can get the Ghost Vacuum, which is unlikely to do enough. We can get the Shuko so that any top decked... Although, because we only have one Narcomoeba left, the top deck Illusionist doesn't actually win. We get the Pithing Needle to name the Belcher. I think we're just going to get Vacuum. Like, Fairy Macabre isn't really good enough against our opponent's deck, so removing 1 card a turn is even less likely to work. But there are situations where maybe it does work. And we'll take a card that does something sometimes over a card that don't do anything. Keep eating these. If I get to 6 mana, I can bring my version of an Undercity Informer into play. And then crack it and mill them out. Alright, we have a win condition now. It's a slow one, but here it is. So if our Force of Negation was a Force of Will, we could have Force of Willed the Undercity Informer and let the Pact trigger go through and then they die to their Pact. But Force of Negation doesn't get to counter every spell. So we had to point it where we could. Let's just keep vacuuming out their graveyard. A Daze. Okay, I'm not unhappy to see any piece of interaction here. And we're going to double our clock by putting in Nomads en-Kor. It should also be noted that what you can do with Ghost Vacuum in this deck is you can exile your own creatures and then for 6 mana put them in and have your combos assembled that way if your opponent's answering your creatures with things like Fatal Push rather than exile removal. Which is kind of neat. I don't know how much that comes up, but... Alright. A Foundation Breaker evoked. So this is going to get rid of my Ghosty Vacuum. That is fine. This is not the problem. Which way are they stacking these? We might be able to exile this from the graveyard. No, we don't get to. Okay, we lose our Vacuum. But they've spent some Spirit Guide action on that. So hopefully this Daze is way more likely to find a target. Cavern of Souls, pretty good. If we can find a Nadu... Oh, I had a little bit of lag then. I misclicked through my attack step. Great. Alright, let's wizard on this. Yeah, so we need a Nadu here. And then we are just fine then because we get to draw 6 cards every turn. Yeah, so we missed 2 damage there. If our opponent wins this game on 2 life, then that's going to suck. Okay, alternatively, we just cast this wizard and win the game. Beautiful stuff. I'll leave this open because this is Memory's Journey mana. Okay, let's just start doing our thing. They get to see our sideboarding here, which is why they're letting us go through the motions instead of just scooping. I think that is really important for Oops to know what hate they're having to play around. To return, target, Thassa's Oracle. Win the game. Cool. So now it's our opponent's turn to be on the play, which doesn't fill me with a lot of joy. But we do have good pieces of interaction among a bunch of forces. We have to be pretty aggressive about when we use a Force of Negation because we can't hit the payoff creatures. We can hit like a Dark Ritual getting them to the mana, and that can buy us multiple turns to do our thing. We have a double force hand. This time we also have Daze and Consign to Memory. Very much going to keep this one. Hopefully they'll have a Summoner's Pact and that can be our win condition. If we draw another blue card for our first turn, then we can hold up Consign, Daze, Force. And that seems very difficult for our opponent to beat, especially on 5 cards. Now, they can do a turn 1 protected, but I don't know if their turn 1 protected will be enough. They need 2 pieces of protection given our hand, I think. But if they just like slow roll it into like turn 1 Thoughtseize, then they know what they're up against and they can sculpt their hand. Or, you know, wait to go off at the right time rather than sculpting. They don't actually have cantrips to sculpt, but they can wait until the better spot. They know what they need to beat. Tapped or untapped? Untapped. Here we go. Lotus Petal. I'm not going to counter that with a Force of Negation. I'm not going to counter the Lotus Petal with a Force of Negation. A Dark Ritual. They have one card left in hand. So we just let this happen and we Force of Will the payoff here. And I'm going to get rid of... interesting. I think it's the Consign. I would still like a way of winning the game. Urza's, Saga, or the Daze. So we can start this running now and win on turn 3. Or we can slow down a bit. I think because we have this protection, we should just say, let's win the game on turn 3. Like, they have one spell, we can probably counter it. They can't play a Balustrade Spy here, and they can't play the Undercity Informer and crack it. So I don't think we're at any threat this turn. So just get the thing that's going to give us the win in a couple of turns. And then we can start doing these other bits and pieces. Force of Will, obviously a fantastic draw. And I think this game is well in our favour now. Let's go and get a Meticulous Archive here. See if we can find even more bits and pieces we want. We don't really care about this. I'll float mana from this. I'll get Shuko. Cavern of Souls. I will name Wizard. I will deploy the Wizard. And then we can start doing our thing. Not sure how our opponent's beating our double force hand. Oh, we can't use the Force of Negation, to be fair. But we do get to... Okay. They've had enough. They don't want to see us collect through things. Okay, we are 2-0. So let's go to round number 3. Okay, what does our round 3 hand look like? A 1-land Brainstorm hand. Like, we've kind of got some stuff that we're not super invested in. We can Brainstorm on turn 2 and just lead on the Ghost Vacuum. That's honestly not too shabby. We can't be wasted off of this source. I think I'm actually going to keep this one. Now, we have a relevant turn 1 play, then turn 2, we get to Brainstorm. So the amount of cards we've seen in total will be pretty good. So that's what, 11 cards? So we get to see 4 additional cards from our opener to find that second land. And obviously Brainstorm can fix up the fact that we have double Illusionist here. Okay, Ancient Tomb Chrome Mox. So we're probably looking at Mono Red Stompy. Oh no, we're looking at Saga Storm perhaps? Oh, are they just playing that out? Okay, this is a good turn to find a white source and Prismatic Ending their only black source. An Opposition Agent. Do we Brainstorm now in the hopes that we find like a Daze or something? I think we do. We don't see as many cards as Brainstorm as I want, but this is going to shut down our fetch lands. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay. We have a problem. I'll bet you the next card down is a land as well. But we need to make sure that we don't get punked by having our fetch land shut off. If we're looking for land, I think we have to look then. Alright, so this is... Okay, this is just like mono black Stompy. So this is the slasher. I'm not sure I've seen this art before. Okay, Tamiyo, get stuck in. So the next card down is going to be a mystery. So we could have a white source, but we can't crack a fetch into Opposition Agent, so it has to be like a Tundra. We could like just get close to the combo and maybe be okay. So this is a 2/3, but it has Death Touch. How useful are these tokens to me? So we take 5, we go to 12, and then we lose half our life and go to 6, which means I guess we block next turn. I don't feel good. Another slasher. A ponder. That's not terrible. Okay, so it has the white land we require. We block this, or let's say we block this, we take 4. That puts us to 2. Then we lose half our life rounded up twice, so we die. We block this, we take 5. We go to 1. We lose half our life rounded up, so we die. I don't believe we actually have a solution to anything here. I think we're just done. Maybe it wasn't a keep. But like, if we just had a white source straight away, we would have been fine. Okay, so they stomping. Let's get a source of Plowshares in there. I'm not sure if they're like doing Leyline Helm stuff as well. I think I want this Prismatic Ending. I don't think this is a Ghost Vacuum matchup. So this can hit Chrome Moxes. It can hit things like Doubtful Voidwalkers, which I suspect our opponent is running as well. How useful are the Dazes? They're okay on the play. Maybe we ease off on a Shuko slightly. Let's board in a couple of remover spells. See if we get a little bit more information about our opponent's deck. If they're just playing like stompy guys, then we can just sort of do our thing. Remove one every now and then, just keep ourselves alive long enough to combo. I don't particularly like having the Thassa's Oracle in hand. We do have a Brainstorm, but our only blue source would involve us cracking this to cast a Brainstorm, so we don't get to fetch. So I think I'm going to mulligan. Okay. Got some Brainstorms. So we're in this kind of weird position of when we interact with this, like when our opponent can interact. Because if they play a turn 1 guy, that kind of sucks for us. And they could Dark Ritual it out, so... Okay, I think we're going to go for Tundra into Nomads. This way, if we do get Wastelanded, it obviously is miserable for us, but we have something in play. Are we doing the second main phase plays, or do they just accidentally go through their turn? Fell Maya. Tapped. Okay. Whew. We get to Brainstorm, everything looks fine again. Thassa's Oracle, what are you doing here? It's not where you live. Okay. So we put this back on top. And what else goes here? I kind of want all the lands. I think the plow is going to be useful. Maybe it's the Brainstorm and just have all the things we have. Or we could go Brainstorm, then Thassa's Oracle, play the Hedge Maze, mill it over. It just depends if we want to source Plowshares this turn. We can source Plowshares next turn, and that's also fine. Yeah, I think we'll do it like this. And for 1 point damage, we have the kill next turn. If our opponent's got mana open, we just don't have to go for it. We can just do the Nadu kill instead. Well, it's not really a kill, but you know what I mean. It basically is. It's just going to be a Bowmaster's killing our guy. Him to Turek. Okay. Okay, they hit both of our payoffs. That is a touch frustrating, but we have a Brainstorm on top of our library, so we can kind of dig our way back out of this hole. So I think we use the Hedge. Now, this is almost always getting a Tundra, though. So I guess we use this one. Although what we're going to use green mana for this turn, nothing, right? So yeah, it is correct to Brainstorm off this one. Nomads en-Kor, Ponder, Urza Saga. I don't need the Nomads. I like the Saga here. Maybe we don't need the land. But then we're going to draw it next turn anyway. Although we can Ponder and shuffle it away. So obviously you're going to see 2 of the cards we put back, but third one could be interesting. So we want the land, but we don't want to draw 2 lands. So I think this is just in any order and shuffle. And then, okay, we found a land anyway. I want to get this Saga running so that we've got something to do with our mana. We can just pump out a few constructs and be prepared to combo. If we can, like, we've already got 1 combo piece. We can insulate ourselves so our opponent removes this one, or we can just get, like, I guess we don't have the vacuum, so it's just the Shuko here. So this Wasteland should always be pointed out a Saga here. Yep, there it goes. But we have an answer for this. A Dread Return. We don't get to cast this. How can we put this into our graveyard? If our opponent him to Turex us again? That's kind of interesting. This has Shadow, so can't block, so we do get to get in 1 point damage here. So we're now in a weird situation where we kind of want our opponent to him to Turek us. So we get into the graveyard, then and if we get some more creatures, we can just go for it. Thoughtseize. Alright, let's plow this Voidwalker. And then they can take the Dread Return. This is actually better than him to Turek for us. Okay, so they're going to go and get our Urza Saga from our graveyard, from our exile zone. That's fine. Like, they might have Pithing Needles. So they have to take this Dread Return, and it goes into the zone where we want it. Right, so there is our Urza Saga, betraying us, working for the enemy. Disgraceful. Very macabre on those 2 cards. Yep. Alright, so this is going to be a Nadu game, is what you're telling me. Nadu off the top, and we basically just win the game, though. That's not a Nadu. Okay. Doesn't look like our opponent has like a big splashy combo, so maybe we don't need the forces. We can trim back on them a little bit. A Chrome Mox, sure. They're going to have like Beseech the Mirror stuff. Okay, so they've got a Dalthy. So we will plow at ends of turn, because that way we're more mana efficient. If we find the Nadu on top, we can just rip. Just get rid of this. What's happening here? What could they possibly have to do in response? Nothing, okay. So this will make them a 2-2. So their Saga constructs are actually going to be bigger than mine. Which is a little bit awkward. But hopefully they're not going to have anything to fetch. I guess they can fetch like another Chrome Mox just to pump the size of their guy. And that's pretty good too. But we've got a decent amount of life to work with here. So there's going to be a few more turns left to play in this game. And we have a draw that just absolutely rips and wins the game for us. So I'm cool with that. If it turns out they are an Urza Saga deck, that could be awkward. And they have like some nice tutors, but doesn't look like they do. So they're going to crack in for 4, which is quite a lot of damage. Is it time to draw a Nadu? It is not time to draw a Nadu, okay. So the Shuko means that our guys will trade. If we take 8 this turn, next turn we can have 4-3, which can trade into one of these. And then the 3-3 can trade into the other one. And then we kind of at parity again, with us just having a banging top deck that wins the game. Alright, 8 damages. Ouch. A fatal push. Yeah, that's pretty good. Like we still have the Nadu line because we're getting Shuko here anyway. Oh, sorry, not a Nadu. Get Shuko. Equip the Shuko. I think I would rather have a Tamiyo attacking, getting us clues here. This game is kind of even. Tamiyo can just break it completely. So if we block both of these, we kill this one, and then this one ends up being a 3-3 that's had 3 damage, so it will die as well. Fell Mire, I think this is going to be. Fell the Profane. They're killing our 4-3 construct. Okay. That is very irritating. So we have to block one of these. A Dalthe Voidwalker, sure. We might have been better off just holding the force and forcing that counter spell, because this situation is not great for us. But we could draw Nadu and just win the game. So, come on deck. Nadu time, please. I thought I'd been good and deserved a little Nadu. So, if we attack here, I think we need to find the clue, because we're dead to so many things here. So let's attack. Let's crack this clue. And Nomads. That can chump block, but we're still dead. Alright, so let's go. Oh, that's the end of that thing, because we lost game 1 as well, right? So that should be just the match to our opponent. Yeah, alright. Nice to get beaten by something a bit weird and off meta, though. I think, like, if that Hymns of Turak hits slightly worse and we're left with one of our payoffs, then the game's just over. And we have a lot of draws. Like I said, if we drew Nadu at any point, we just win. Maybe we're supposed to just hold up the Force of Will and not have our creature removed, because if we block both of these and kill them, then we're on 7 life here. And then this is going to take a few turns to get through. But maybe we still don't get there if we do that anyway. But yeah, I think we had slightly different possibilities there. Anyway, let's go to round number 4.
Have you got magic cards you don't want taking up space in your home, or do you just need some extra spending money? Well, my lovely sponsors 3for1 Trading are buying all collections, big and small. They are one of Europe's biggest traders and have a transparent process to sell them cards and make sure you're getting a good deal. Click the link in the description of this video to get an offer on your cards today.
Yeah, I'll take a turn 3 Nadu combo. I will keep this. We just need to find a land to really get things to work. Not a big lover of the Narcomoeba, but it's just another body that we can put into play and start equipping stuff to. I don't think I'm just going to play out the Shuko. I think I'd rather ponder and try and find like a Force of Will to protect what we're doing, perhaps. Or the 3rd land drop. So because we have something we're actively looking for. Okay. So we put the Daze in the hand, cast a Meticulous Archive next turn. Or play the Meticulous Archive next turn, and the Shuko, and then the turn after we combo. That seems fine to me. We got a little bit of insulation against whatever our opponent's doing. So on our creature deck, we're totally fine because we've got access to 2 plows this game. Eumidian Hatchery. Well, our opponent, whatever they're doing, is sweet. I adore this card a lot. I'm not going to Daze and Mox Diamond here. So we're going to be getting smallpoxed and stuff like that, I would imagine. And Orcish Bowmasters. Do I care about Orcish Bowmasters, given what we're doing with our hand? I don't think we do. I don't think this is where we take our fight right now. We've got a plow to clean this up. We're not required to draw any cards, because Nadu doesn't even draw cards. I think I probably do want a plow still. So I'll leave this on top just in case things go a little bit awry. And then we'll jam the Shuko. I don't really want to Daze this turn cycle if I can avoid it. I'd much rather just send the Nadu with the Daze the following turn. But Smallpox is pretty spooky. This could be the Hogak build. That looks really good. I will get on the channel at some point. The old Thoughtseize, you say. Yep, this is bad news. We're going to lose the Nadu, so we're going to have to find another way through this game. But we have 2 pieces of removal to get us to the later game where we can find another piece to combo with our Shuko. Turn back on our cantrips by getting rid of Bow Boys. It's going to take a little bit of damage. I think this is the play Narcomoeba stage of the game here. Not my favourite, but it's okay. We've got a 2-1 flyer. So our clocks are pretty even. They know we've got a plow in hand and a Daze. They don't know about the second plow, so they might try and bait the plow so that we can't plow whatever their real prize is. If they've got like some big Hogak stuff, they might be like, oh, okay, let's see if we can get them to plow this Bowmasters. It's going to be a Seville land? It is, okay. Saga's pretty strong. It's going to churn out a bunch of friends and then get something horrible. Like, Pithing Needle was almost certainly going to be in their deck. 3 mana. Grist the Hungertide. Okay, are we just making guys or are we trying to kill my Narcomoeba? Sure, it's just making guys here, right? Well, they can +1. We can crack it back, put it to 2. They can +1. And, you know, we can do this little song and dance for a couple of turns whilst they're getting value and forcing our Narcomoeba on attacks into the Grist. I think that's better than just losing your Orc army. And they probably have things like... Oh, no, they're just going for the sacrifice here. Okay. So, I was going to say, they probably have things like Life from the Loam and stuff in their deck that they want to put in their graveyard anyway. So, they've sacrificed their little guy. They're going to kill my Narcomoeba. I'm just going to plow this Bowmasters here. And then we just draw Nadu off the top and win the game. Easy, easy. You're not a Nadu. What are you doing? Okay, let's just do the same play as last turn. We have an Narcomoeba. It's got some weaponry. I'm not sure how it's attaching it to its weird illusion jellyfish hands, but here we are. I don't understand why this card isn't a jellyfish, though. Alright, so their Saga's cranking up. They've already got a Mox Diamond, so they're going to be pretty chonky boys. We might be in a horrible situation having to plow a construct when it gets equipped with boots. Okay, they milled a Witherbloom Command off their Grist. That's not unexpected in our opponent's deck. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I can approximate a pile of like 60 different non-land cards, and they're probably going to be built from that selection of things. Okay, so there is the Loam. So there's a Wasteland, a Hatchery, and a Catacombs. Yeah, this is going to go very poorly for us because we're not really good into the Wasteland lock. That is one of the weaknesses of Breakfast. You're a 3-colour deck with colourless lands in. And at some point they can also Wasteland their own Hatchery and just get a bunch of X1s. Oh, sorry, 1-1s. And that's just going to be bad news for us. We do get to kill the Grist this turn. That's not nothing. And they don't have enough mana to do the Saga stuff. Okay, so we have an interesting play here where we can plow like a construct and then Daze our own plow, paying for the Daze to protect ourselves from a Wasteland. So milled with the Life from the Loam. We making a guy here, or do you just want to keep Wastelanding me? Right, they're just floating mana from the Saga, so we're probably going to continue to try and Wasteland me. Which means we're not going to have a construct to plow. Am I plowing an insect token just so we can get the Daze to save my land? Doesn't seem good. Also, they didn't just tap their Hatchery at the end of our last turn, which they can do and just keep going. Okay, so they've got some hate for our graveyard. And now they're going to loan back the Wasteland. I'm not in love with that for us. I don't think we're wasting a plow on an insect token here. But we're never going to be able to win the game with this Narcomoeba because whenever they need to, they just waste down their Hatchery. And then they have lots of 1-1 flyers. Right, we will keep playing lands. Our opponent's just doing one thing a turn. I can live with that. Maybe find Nadu and win the game that way. So now they're tapping the Hatchery at our end step. Cool. I don't know how many decks I have with this ready to record with, but it's a lot. I'm trying not to just put them all into 1 week and just sort of spread them out a little bit. But this card, it really gets my juices flowing. Love this. Life from Loam, targeting all the things. They have a Ghost Quarter as well now. Okay. Alright, so they're getting a load of 1-1s this turn instead. 5 power. Not bad. I'm not super in love with how the tokens look though. Quite like these insects. Because if you're not afraid of like giant centipedes, I don't know what to tell you. These things are monsters. But these, I don't know, they just don't vibe with me, insect-wise. Alright, what are you doing with your leftover black mana? Not cracking this spell bomb. So the clock, she is a ticking here. We've got a lot of power coming our way. We can't draw Nadu and win with it right now. My friend's going to clean up because they've been drawing 3 cards a turn due to Loam. A Saga. Well, this isn't really going to do anything, is it? But we'll play it out. It's probably worth us trading here. So let's do the maths. 5, 5, 5 kills us. If we... Well, they drew a card. Interesting. If we block 1... So if we don't block 6 and 6 is 12, and then they kill us next turn. So it's kind of the same whether we block or not, so we may as well just keep an extra body in play. Because then if we do somehow rip a Nadu that we can use, it's going to do a lot more, because we're going to have more bodies. Yep, you get back 2 hatcheries and a wasteland. Our opponent's deck is sweet. Goodbye Urza Saga. This is one we don't get to bounce for the Daze. So yeah, taking 6 3 turns or 5 3 turns is the same either way for us, so we may as well just take this, have more material in play in case we have need of doing something with it. I don't think we're winning this game. I don't mind losing to a sweet hatchery grist deck though. That's my jam. Okay, we have a game plan now. We have a very good game plan here. If we can deploy a Cephalid Illusionist, we can mill our library and then get the Oracle going. Now, our mana base is under attack, so it's getting a little bit sketchy. So if we block and kill one, we take 4, so that buys us an extra turn here. And we get to do the Daze trick. Alright, you get back that wasteland. There it is. And fire it off straight away. They are. Okay, so I'm going to go whole priority here. We're going to source the Plowshares, one of these insects. And then we're going to Daze our own spell to save our land from wasteland. And then we'll pay for the Daze. Plow the guy. We block here. We only take 4 this turn. Which means we get another draw step. Which is big news. Alright, they're cracking a spell bomb now. Are they worried about Murktide Regent? Sure. What are we doing here? We can play with Thassa's Oracle. It can block and kill this. But this is 3/6 and just kills us anyway. I think we play the Archive here. We save this for our green source. A Brainstorm. That is a good Magic the Gathering card. This also allows us to put the Thassa's Oracle on top, so we have a line where we kill with an Illusionist next turn. However, if they wasteland us, it can get a bit awkward. We're gonna be 1 life shy. So the 1 life we could have saved by blocking a turn earlier might actually end up costing us. Interesting. I think we were right to keep our material in play so that we could do more stuff with a Nadu down the track. Or, you know, maybe they have a better creature for us to block. So we need to find Cephalid Illusionist and an untapped land. It is a bit of a big ask, but it's certainly possible. And the upside, if we do find it, we just win the game. Alright, Brainstorm, show me what you got. It's not looking like anything that's going to work here, is it? Let's just cast this Ponder. Alright, we're done there. Okay, to the sideboard. Not a big fan of the old Life Alone destroying all of our lands. So let's get a Ghost Vacuum, and do we want Pithing Needle for wastelands if they're recurring them? Possibly. I like these Fairy Macabres. They have Bowmasters, which kind of makes me want to have some sort of like plowy type stuff going on. We could play Serenity to deal with our opponents like Moxen and Sagas, and they probably have Leyline as well. So I'm into this. Maybe the Prismatic Ending as well. What am I not super bothered by? I don't think Daze is going to find a lot of targets in this matchup. What else? I don't really like getting Smallpox very much, but that's just the nature of the beast, really, isn't it? Like, what are we Force of Willing here? Smallpox, but then we're going down 2 cards, so it's kind of win-win whatever we do. Maybe we just go out of forces here. Do we need plows? What have they shown us? Bowmasters is kind of a big plow target. I like the Tamiyo here, just gives us more material. I'm also kind of into the Cavern, just having more lands total is not too shabby. Is this too many? This is maybe too many Fairy Macabres, actually. Let's try this. And we have a little bit of graveyard interaction. We can sweep out a bunch of constructs if we get into like a weird grindy game. We can also deal with the Leyline to turn back on our Dread Return combo. And that seems reasonable. 1 land is a little scary, but we can just go for that Island Ponder life. So what do I actually like from this hand? I don't particularly like the Memory's Journey. I think we could do better. Mulligan is a little bit scary against our opponent's deck, though, when it is like a grinding all your resources out of the game type effect. We will Mulligan, though. Like, it kind of already feels like one. Okay. I don't really like the fact that we have 2 green sources in hand. We have a lot of draws that makes this really good. We're not going to get Life from Alone locked. We need a white source. I really don't think we can go to 5 against our opponent's deck though. Just the nature of like the smallpox and stuff like that. So I think we keep this and we bottom the Oracle. We just begin with a Hedge Maze, try and find our way to a white source. Or a Ponder. Ponder's excellent. Okay, happy now. So it's like half a Ponder into Ponder. It's not a bad way to spend your first couple of turns in a game of Magic the Gathering. Wasteland, we just going straight in here. A Mox Diamond. You got it, boss. It's going to be a Loam. Right, just Wasteland me straight up. Sure. But we have a land and we have a Ponder. 3 lands, you say? I do like having lots of lands. I think we will put the Saga into hand. This gives us access to the combo in 3 turns, I think it is. We just need to not get blown out by Life of the Loam. We're going to have a... Okay, black, Orcish Bowmaster. That is fine. That is not going to beat our combo clock. So next time we can play the Saga. I don't know if we're playing out the Illusionist. I don't feel like we need to, but it's still mana efficient. Are we playing out the Illusionist here? If they hit it, it mills over our planes, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Maybe it stops our opponent from attacking a little bit. Right, I will play out this Illusionist. Maybe it just gives him a really good Smallpox turn there, and that sucks. But Smallpox is going to be horrible regardless. A Mox Diamond. Okay. Swamp. Are we doing anything with our mana over their opponent? Only 3 cards left in hand. It's not too bad. Black. We're getting hymned. We're getting Bowmastered. So we're going to lose our Illusionist, mill over the plains on top of our library. Also a Plow and a Tamiyo. So we didn't lose 2 Shukos, which would have been the worst case scenario. But next turn we can drop a big ol'... Well, not big construct. We can start making constructs, but they're going to be big enough to deter our opponent's attacks. And that should buy us a little bit of time while we do our thing. There is a question as to whether or not we are going for our combo. Maybe I'd like to go for the combo with Memory's Journey up, but that's pretty doable as well. Okay, so let's just get stuck in. Our opponent hasn't shown us anything that makes me think they're playing opposition agents, so I'm not going to play around it with this fetch. Then Catacombs being cracked. Black, green. Grist the Hunger Tide. Sure, 1 card left in our opponent's hand. I think we'd probably just go for it here. Coming in with a 2-2. Makes sense. They haven't upped their Grist yet. Now they're milling. It's a Wasteland. 1 card in hand. If we draw a white source, or actually if we draw any mana source, we're good here, right? Narcomoeba. I don't really want the Narcomoeba. Am I just grinding more value? Do I think that's where I need to be, or do I think we need to combo? If they have a Fatal Push, we can just send it the following turn anyway. If they've got a Fairy Macabre, we have the Memory's Journey ready to go. Our opponent looks like they're F6'd over there. So we do just get to win the game now. The token gives us the 3rd body we're going to need, because we only got 1 Narco left in our deck. Right, Dread Return, target Thassa's Oracle, sacrificing our friends. Win the game. Okay, on to game number 3 here. Now, we've seen a little bit more of what our opponent's up to. They know that we've got these Fairy Macabres in. So Force of Negation is another thing we can bring in. It answers Grist and it answers the Life from the Loam permanently. Is that somewhere I'd like to be? Maybe I'm not so hot on this Serenity. Like, it is an answer for all their constructs, but that doesn't really seem like how these games are going, does it? Let's bang in one of these Force of Negations. I do like Tamiyo here. It's just a thing that generates value. We have so much graveyard hate. Is that too much? Maybe I'll take out 1 Nadu on the draw, just because our opponent can attack our mana sources quite aggressively. I think that's okay. I'm no breakfast expert, but I like to at least think through what I'm doing and try and apply some logic to it and hope that you lovely people enjoy that. So, what happens here? I think this is fine. It has 3 lands in it, which is kind of step 1 for me. Leyline of the Void. Okay, so we don't have the Serenity anymore. So it's going to be like a Nadu game. But that's fine. Nadu is good. Am I deploying a Tamiyo and just getting that rolling into what is quite likely to be like a Fatal Push? I don't think so. I think we're just playing the Archive and going from there. Flooded Strand. Alright, I just want like a nice glut of mana. And if our opponent wastelands us, we're going to want the extra land. If they don't, we can always throw away with the Brainstorm next turn. Now, we do have to be aware of Orcish Bowmasters as a card that exists, so we can't just run out our Brainstorm willy-nilly. This can get us a basic if we want it. I'm going to deploy a Tamiyo here. And if our opponent plays a Bowmasters, we Brainstorm response. Saga's ticking up to 2. I assume they're going to have a land and just crank out constructs here. Ooh, we're doing something else instead. Thoughtseize would probably be good enough to fire in here, or a Fatal Push. Yeah, you got it. Again, we're not going to play our Brainstorm into a Bowmasters. What are they doing here? Right, we'll allow them to get this land. So this was an opportunity where we could Brainstorm. I'm curious what they're doing, because we might be looking to find a different thing, depending on what they do with this source. Okay, black and 1. They're just playing an Orcish Bowmasters out now. Okay, I will go and get another Tundra, and I'll fire in with this Brainstorm. Okay, we don't want this Narcomoeba, and we're going to draw whatever we put on top anyway. So we don't quite have everything we need right now. If we wait one turn, we kind of get it all in one go, and I think that's a lot better. I'm going to play this on the Urza Saga, I think. Or is it the Grist? Could be the Wasteland, actually. Yeah, let's just not mess around with Wasteland. And then they're going to fetch something with this Urza Saga. I just want to see if they make constructs or not first. Alright, so we're going to fetch around our opponent's Pithing Needle, potentially. We've got a green source in hand, but I don't think it hurts to get another one. Let's have a little looky-loo. A Narcomoeba. Yeah, sure. Just mill that over. If there wasn't a leyline play, then we could get it into play and give us another body, but I think drawing four extra cards every turn, so 8 every turn cycle, is just going to be too much for our opponent to beat. Graphics Cage isn't going to affect anything either. We're just going to grind them out with just more value than they can handle. Thoughtseize is something that could come down here and maybe makes us Brainstorm. But I think if they had that, they do it pre-combat in case we do that to protect. Fatal Push is not online here to kill the Nadu. So we play the Nadu out first, and then we play out this Nomads. So they get to see what we're putting into our hand, but that's fine by me. Kind of hoping for a land there, but we didn't find one. So we've just drawn 4 cards, though. And we get to go to next turn, and we get to draw a bunch more. Wonder why they tapped this swamp and floated black mana. A Ghost Quarter. That can deal with their own hatchery. Yeah, you can have some 1/1s. If that's the best thing you're doing, you're going to have a bad time, I think. Like, at some point we're going to find our Thassa's Oracle, and we're just going to be able to play a Thassa's Oracle with an empty library. Alright, looks like we're playing a Hogak. That's fine. It doesn't matter. We've got Plow. So this means that they can't cast creatures from their graveyard either. So they can't play Hogak from the graveyard. But obviously this was one from their hand. In the end step, we can just draw more cards. We're really seeing the resiliency of this breakfast deck. The fact that we can just completely ignore the graveyard and still do a line that will give us a you win the game trigger at some point. Have I targeted them both? I have, okay. So now we will play out another Nomads. Right, so we've got some lands into play here. I don't really want to target my... Yeah, I don't really want to target my Nomads. My Cephalid Illusionist. Because I don't want to mill over the card that's important for us to have. So what land are we playing here? We can play out the Shuko. How many Surveil lands have we got left? Let's crack one of these. None. Okay. Let's get these lands out of our deck. And then what are we doing here? Probably just Prismatic Ending this Bowmaster. Our opponent could play another Bowmaster. How do we respond to that? I don't think we care if they play one Bowmaster. So, okay. Cephalid Illusionist, Ponder. We could just get the Illusionist and mill over right now. We can't blow up both of these, actually, so that's not really going to work for us. Any order? Shuffle. Okay, so they didn't do anything in response there, so we're going to go for this Brainstorm and see if we can find anything particularly helpful. Okay, I guess we'll put back Shuko and Illusions. I guess we could put back the lands and then we get them back next turn, don't we? That's probably smarter. Do that again with this Brainstorm, and we'll just put back 2 lands here. And then we can deploy a Tamiyo if we want to. We don't really need to, though. Let's go to attacks. Bash for 3. We don't really need to actually attack here, do we? Kind of just got, like, everything we want here. Alright. Instead, get rid of this Ghost Vacuum, get rid of this Fairy Macabre. I don't think we need a Memories Journey either. Don't mind having illusions, but we want to keep a second one if we get Thought Seized. I don't think we need this Shuko though. So we have two Urza Sagas that are going to come into play this turn. They can get in an attack here. So this blocks here, this blocks here. Then we put the damage onto the Nadu. Often forgotten mode about Nadu. About Nomads. And we just keep doing this nonsense. I don't think we have any more lands to find here. We just make some large constructs, and that's probably the safer way of winning this game, to be perfectly honest. So we'll deploy a Tamiyo. We'll go to attacks here. Prismatic Ending this. We have this Force of Negations. We can do some stuff with that if we want to. Sure, we're just going to clean up. Just get rid of this Nadu. And it doesn't really matter. We're so far ahead here. Our opponent's not going to be able to beat what we've got going on. Like, we're not even activating our Nomads Nadu combo as much as we can. Because you just want to crank out a bunch of constructs here so that we don't die to some random thing happening to our little Thassa's Oracle. Right, you can have a Mox Diamond. They're going to attack for 1 in the air. Kind of wish we kept that Shuko from earlier, to be honest. Okay, let's make a construct. Make another construct. Let's make a construct. Make another construct. Shuko. Let's get a vacuum. Let's go to attacks. Attack with the whole team. That should be lethal, I believe. We get a clue, which pumps all of our guys even more. And then we deal 21 damage that turn. Alright, we got there. A bit of a grind. Deck is very powerful. Like I said, we leverage the Nadu half of the deck quite nicely there. We did not necessarily play optimally in terms of how we're discarding stuff at the end of turn and putting our triggers on. But we're so far ahead, and I'm not an expert, I'm not going to puzzle through every little thing right there when we're just absolutely smashing our opponent to pieces. Okay, 1 round left to go. We have got a 4-1 on the board, so let's see if we can take that. Turn 2 potential send here, but I'd rather have a little bit of protection, but depending on what opponent's playing, there might not be a deck that has any way of interacting with our combo anyway. But we'll see. An Underground Sea. Okay, Interaction Ahoy. A Tamiyo. Well, this entire game could just fall apart immediately. I think we go Tundra, and I believe we are going to see if we can use up some of our opponent's interaction to try to get rid of this Tamiyo. Turn 1 Tamiyo on the play means that if we try and remove it and they have a Daze, then they could end up with just a Planeswalker. Yep. Cool. Certainly on my chopping block of cards that probably shouldn't be in Legacy anymore. But if we can just grind through all of our opponents' bits and pieces, we'll be okay. Don't wasteland me though, that'd be a bit rude. We can Brainstorm straight away, no flip, okay. So I guess we go Misty Rainforest, play the Nomads around a Daze. Sure, let's play the Nomads around a Daze. Like, Nadu just as an object in play is pretty reasonable in this sort of matchup, unless they're doing like gross reanimatory things, but that's just the way she goes sometimes. Yep, getting some more clue action. Do they have a land to follow up with, or have they just got a grip full of interaction? A Brainstorm. So we're going to see our opponent flipping their Tamiyo. However, we have an uncounterable Nadu coming, which I think is what we go for instead of the Illusionist. And then we might find enough lands off the top that we get to go anyway. Alright, so this is probably going to be Hedge Maze or Meticulous Archive. Probably just Meticulous Archive. We already have the green off this Cavern. A Brainstorm, that's not what we're looking for right now. We're looking for Force of Will. Thassa's Oracle, that's also fine. Play this, name Wizard. So they might have to remove our guy in response here. If they can't kill this Nomads, then we get to draw a bunch of cards. So, alright, they're just scooping it up. Nice. We don't know what our opponent's playing still. So, I don't think I want to go into Fairy Macabre Town. I would like this Cavern of Souls, please. And I like a Prismatic Ending because it deals with either side of Tamiyo. They almost certainly have Wastelands in their deck. Do we want Epiphany to deal with those? Maybe. I think the Teferi is kind of big news. Don't really like the Daze on the draw very much. And we could maybe trim on one Shuko to fit these things in. And that seems fine. Like Force of Will, we're not like in love with it in the tempo matchup, but we definitely want it for the reanimator matchup. Like, it's still fine in the tempo matchup because it just lets us push through our combo. But I would probably trim one copy if we were against Blue-Black Tempo rather than Blue-Black Reanimator where I keep the full set in. We cannot keep this hand. We will have to mulligan it. Cavern of Souls is kind of like a big draw to keeping this hand. But like we have cantrips to get through. If they are Reanimator, we've kind of got that covered. And then we keep this and bin off the journey. We do have an interesting choice when it comes to the land we play first, because if we can play out our Tropical Island to play the Ghost Vacuum, but then we can't cast a Brainstorm. Whereas we could play out the Cavern of Souls, and then if that gets wasted, we can still, Brainstorm and play the game. So I think we'd probably end up on the Cavern of Souls, but if we draw another land, maybe it becomes a little bit trickier to work out which land we're playing, because then we have to say, okay, this is probably, this is worse than a Tundra, like most of the time. So Tundra would be the land we want to keep in play the most, and then it becomes a little bit tricky with these, because if we do have a source that casts Brainstorm, do we need to save our Tropical Island, or can we hang this out to eat a wasteland so our Cavern of Souls doesn't get wasted later on, and that gives us the way through? It's very interesting. Okay, so now we have that exact conundrum. I believe we hang out the Tropical Island, but this is an interesting thing, and I haven't played enough with this deck to know if that's 100% correct, but I think the fact that we already have the white source is where I want to be, and I will play out this Ghost Vacuum rather than Brainstorm here. If our opponent is Blue-Black Reanimator, this is going to be very good. It will also keep Murktide from coming down and keep Baraghost in check. So it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine to really good, basically. And I'll take that. Okay, so this is an Undercity Sewers. If we see a second Undercity Sewers, we can be pretty sure our opponent's playing Reanimator, because you can use the Undercity Sewers in conjunction with the Brainstorm to get things going. Do I want to play against this? No. Daze is pretty bad news for us. I think we just have to let this go, though. Alright, so they are wastlanding us. That's fine. Let's just take this out now. Okay, I think we will try and remove this Tamiyo. It does have to be with a Tundra. If our opponent forces this, I might force back. If they Daze, I don't think we do. Okay, so we just got to kill their Tamiyo. Great news. Wasteland, terrible news. Okay, okay. Whew. Could be a toughie. Oh my god, stop it. Alright, I don't think we can allow this one to happen. Like, we're not doing anything with our hand, we just need to try and stop this. Alright, so they've got a force as well. Alright, Cavern of Souls, you can name Wizard. And we are in trouble. I forgot to exile something from the graveyard last turn, didn't I? Hopefully that won't come back to bite me. So, hopefully all these wastelands they've been doing means they don't have enough mana to crack clues. But that means they just have a bunch of spells in hand, and most of them cost 1 to 2 mana. So, alright, they have a land. Are we cracking clues? We are cracking clues. Like, we're going to play this one out so we can see what deck our opponent is. Like, even though I think we're in trouble here. Like, we can still win this game. It's not impossible. It's just a little hard. Yep. The old 1 mana Howling Mine. It's pretty good. Graveyard down. We don't want any Murktides jumping in. So now we're in, like, Kaito coming down territory, which will cause us some problems. Another spell we can't cast. Cool. But we've got a force, but I'd rather hold this Brainstorm so that we can fix things up if we do find a blue source. Alright, so they are Reanimator. This is what the second Undercity Sewers tells us. It is possible to have 2 in Dimir Reanimator, which is very, very uncommon. So I think odds are our opponent's playing Reanimator. And it is the most played deck, so all signs point to Entombs. Yeah, you just keep drawing all these extra cards, opponent. Have a lovely time. A Thoughtseize. Like, sure. A Hedge Maze, a blue source. I forgot to exile the Thoughtseize at the end of turn. Alright, we've got a blue source now. A real game. Get in the bin. Core Nomads. Yeah, our opponent should have no cards in graveyard right now. I've just passed through the end step a couple of times by accident here. Too busy lamenting all of our resources getting jammed up. They might not crack this and then have 2 clues to crack on the following turn. It's Thoughtseize. So Orcish Bowmasters is very much a card that exists. But honestly, I don't know if we have the luxury to play around that. I guess we don't need to do anything right now. Like, our opponent's accruing a lot of card advantage. But we're at least not dying. And because we're a combo deck, we can just sometimes win the game. And that is a good way of beating through lots of resources. Now, if they've just got a bunch of counter magic that we can't get through, then that's going to be awkward. But now they're going to crack both these clues and flip the Tamiyo. So now we're going to be looking for our Prismatic Ending to deal with it. Yep. Can't remember if we boarded in the Pithing Needle. We didn't, though. Okay. Okay. Oh, should have exiled the card from the graveyard. Okay, so now this is ticking up. I could ponder looking for a land. If we miss on land, we don't get constructs, but we're kind of under the gun a little bit here, so I think we are going to be pondering here. You got Bowmasters to fire in? No. A Prismatic Ending is good, but we can't cast it because we haven't got any white mana. We didn't find the land we needed. We could play an uncountable Tamiyo of our own. Is that going to win us the game, though? Probably not. So this is an any orange shuffle, I think. I think we need to go big here. And we do have the ability to go big next turn. Yeah, so next turn we have uncounterable Shuko, uncounterable Cephalid Illusionist. Unless they wasteland us here. And then hopefully the Forcible will be enough to get through the Dread Return. Although I'd rather have a Nadu here, because the resources we get means that we'll be able to win the game. Right, this time I will actually remember to remove that card. Our approach is ticking up with the Tamiyo. 6 cards in hand is a lot of cards. Float a mana off this. Get a Shuko. We can also play this and play the Nomads, so we have an instant speed way of going off. So that if the thing they're holding is a removal spell, we don't have to counter it. We can save our counter to protect the Dread Return. And we'll still have the mana to pay around a Daze here. And we've already got green for Memory's Journey. A Force of Will on this guy. Be my guest. Okay. What about this guy? So we might have to force a removal spell in a second. Alright, we're going to get ourselves a little friend. Welcome. Alright, we're going to go for it here. We've got a Force of Will. We've got Memory's Journey available once we've gone through our pile here. Oh, it's already in the pile now. Cool. I'll take another little Narcomoeba, please. So they could have something like a Fairy Macabre here. But, again, we just have to keep pressing these buttons and hope we get there. Force of Will around Daze is pretty nice. Where is our little Dread Return? There it is. Let's target our Oracle. Let's sack our squad. How do you feel about this one, opponent? A Force of Will. I also have a Force of Will. So I had 2 forces this turn, and we can play around the Daze, and we got the game. Nice. And that is the match and the league. So we finished with 4-1, which is pretty much every breakfast league I play. I tend to go 4-1. I think the deck is very strong. Let's talk about it. So obviously this deck just won like one of the 2 most competitive Legacy events in the year. So you have like Eternal Weekend and European Legacy Masters are kind of like the 2 biggest ones in my view in terms of quality of play. And winning one of those tournaments is only going to happen if your deck is good and you play well. So clearly the deck is very strong. Like we're just playing a bunch of good cards as well as like this redundant combo, you know, because we've got 2 A's and 2 B's. You know, we've got the Nadu and the Illusionist, and we've got the Nomads and the Shuko. And, you know, we beat Graveyard Hate. We saw that. We beat all sorts of stuff. We get to tuck it into this little Force of Will shell, which protects us from the scary combos, but also allows us to push ours through. So there's a lot of stuff here. The ways to beat this deck, you can, like, attack its mana base is quite good. And you can kind of, like, mess with some of these bits and pieces a little bit as well. I did once play against someone who had humility when I was trying to play this deck, which was not very easy to deal with. But yeah, the deck is very strong. I think we've shown that quite nicely here today, even though I know for a fact that we did not play 100% optimally. Like that game where we just had it all, we probably could have, you know, been a little bit more precise with all the things we're like discarding. We could have played out a Shuko, have a little bit more damage, whatever. And that way one of our Tamiyo could have like blocked an insect for free. That stops the attack, etc, etc. But the deck is very powerful. I think this is where you need to be in Legacy, is like having something that's explosive, that, you know, you can say, I'm going to win the game if you don't do anything about it. But also having like these interactive elements built into it that can flex between protecting your combo or protecting yourself from losing the game against something a bit spooky. So, you know, we've got our removals, we've got our counter magic, we've got ways of finding what we need. Deck is clearly very strong. And once again, congratulations to Mr. Larsson for another absolutely banging tournament win. Love to see it. Alright, I hope you enjoy this one. Please remember to like and subscribe. And goodbye.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel. A mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles. And lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.